I got a mess behind me. I just realized that. What is all that papers I got up there? Got a lot of papers up there. I just realized. Good day to everyone. Family Home Church here. Daniel C. Taylor here. Like, share, subscribe. And we have a good book being read. Revelation. We're in Revelation chapter 8. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. And then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to earth. And there was noises, thunderings, lightnings, and earthquakes. That's what makes me think maybe the seventh seal is about to open or already is opening. And here's part of the reason why. Because there's so much of this happening that we see today. What are the noises? Well, we have rioting going on all the time. We have people protesting. When a criminal gets killed, people protest. When a good person gets killed by a criminal, no one protests. That's noise right there. Because they're rioting that, well, Jesus said the love of lawlessness would go cold. Something to that effect. I can't remember how he exactly says it, but in other words, lawlessness would prevail, and people would not love law anymore. They would not love each other. So the seven angels who had seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. Now, I think about this sometimes about California. And no offense to my brothers and sisters who are in California, that's a sinful place. When I went there the first time, even though I was in the nice, peaceful mountains, and it was snow-capped mountains, I mean, it's gorgeous, physically, a beautiful, spectacular thing that God created to see. But there was still in the air a feeling of dismay in this part of the country. When it was in LA, it was even worse. It's like sin is becoming like Sodom and Gomorrah in California. We know what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. But San Francisco, LA, they have at least 10 righteous in each of those cities and throughout California. So Sodom and Gomorrah is, but they're having more storms and earthquakes, and California literally could have everything. Out of all the states in the country, California could have everything. They could have hurricanes. They can have tornadoes. They can have earthquakes. They can have field fires. They can have storms that cause these things. They can have blizzards. I mean, there's more disasters in California than any other part of the country in the world. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. More worse, more worse. Worser. Worser's not a word. More worse. Come on, Zach. And you see trees and things burning up on a daily basis. And it's almost every year something happens. And it's wild, man. I mean, it's just wild to see. Second trumpet. The second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. That sounds like a volcano erupting to me. And a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. What we got going on right now, we got ships sitting out in California doing absolutely nothing. They're not being destroyed, but they're just sitting there with goods that we can't get. Of course, the Democrat Party might have something to do with that, and all this COVID lie I keep calling it coli. Um, Even though, yeah, I know people who have actually died from COVID, and it's a terrible thick sickness. But I also know people who have died of the flu. I've also know people who have died of cancer. I've also know people who have died. I don't know anybody who have died of HIV or AIDS or whatever one is the one that they call it when they die. I don't think I've had know anybody of that because I don't have any people that I know of that. But I have known people who died of drugs. I know people who've died of um, just a common cold. I've known people who have died of so many different things, heart disease, even something like the pancreas, not the pancreas. What's that? The appendix. I know people have died from having their appendix burst because they didn't get stopped in time. So yeah, it happens. It's nature. It's natural. It's stuff that comes. Jesus said it would come. Revelation said it would come. We're reading that right now. Other scriptures say it will come. So what's going on? Is this actually happening right now? I lost my place. There we go. We have creatures are being killed in the oceans, and some of it has nothing to do with explosions or fire. But what we do see is our trash doing it. So is he seeing this as a metaphor or actuality? Or both? Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was bitter. Now, we haven't seen anything like that yet, but we do have issues with drinkable water, and we have to have purification systems to purify more than we've ever had before. There used to be times where you could go to a river and just. I remember a lake in Maine that my uncle took me one time, a couple times, more than once, and you could literally, it was so clear you could literally see to the bottom. It was crystal clear, like the freshest, cleanest water you ever tasted. And there's fish in it. And you know what fish do? They eat. You know what happens when you eat? You poop. So you think about that when you're drinking that water. Of course, it all goes down to the bottom, and there was catfish doing what they do. That's why. That's why God told Israel never to eat that stuff. They're not supposed to have catfish. So I remember talking with him one day before he passed away, and I remember talking with him in my late 20s before I got married, and he said, "You know that lake is starting to get not so pretty anymore." And he said, "There's a lot of rivers." We were in Tennessee one time. Um, my oldest was younger than my fourth child is now, which he's turned 13 a couple months ago. I think my oldest might have been, you might have been like 2, maybe 3. Two. How old are you now? 13? What year is this? 2021. We went up there in 2012, so he had just turned whatever age he was. So 2000 and stop, Zach, you're gonna fall. 1, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So you were about 3. My number 4 son was like 3, and he was, so it was about 10 years ago. It was about 9 years ago. So he must have been about 3. So David was probably close to 9, 8 or 9. So anyways, we're up in Tennessee, and you're watching this river. You could actually see the fish swimming down and up the river. And that's how clear it was. And I'm thinking about some of these rivers. Some of them are still nice and clear. Some are still clear. But you think about some of the rivers that used to be clear and no longer clear, and you can't drink on them anymore like you used to could. You think about the springs, the natural springs. We had a natural spring in Connecticut that we would stop on the way back home from from a karate class, and my dad would actually had it. They actually had it tapped where you could pour water, get water, fresh spring water. And we have heard that that tap is no longer there because the spring is no longer clean. Because things are becoming bitter. You can't drink it naturally anymore. You have to purify it. Third, the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was bitter. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. Ugh. In other words, at night it was so dark you couldn't see anything. Say from 6 to 6, you can only see something from 6 to, I'm trying to think of what a third is. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 hours. So what's a third of 12 hours? 3, 6, 9, 12. No, that's 4. For 4 hours, nothing but pitch black. And during the sunny days, for 4 hours, nothing but hardly able to see. That's something we haven't seen yet. And I looked and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the 3 angels who are about to sound." You'll have to stay tuned Monday to find out what those sounds are. No, this chapter was really short. And this is something that I believe is coming really soon, because the 5th trumpet is really long. And the 6th one is too. And that's on Monday. And this is something that I'm telling you people, we need to be ready. We need to be ready. There's things already starting to happen that we're seeing, and we need to be ready. If you're not ready, what's going to happen to you? The everlasting damnation. The 7th trumpet we won't even hear for a couple of days, because we got a lot of other stuff that he reads. He writes down before he writes down the 7th trumpet. I'm not sure what chapter it's in, but it's not in the next chapter. The next chapter is the 5th, 6th trumpet, and it's even more things that are happening. People, get into the Word, learn it, know it, go and sin no more. At least the worst thing come upon you. We're going to read about that worst thing of the lake of fire in the later chapters. God bless you. Like, share, and subscribe. In Jesus' name.